With over 10 years of Minecraft and several major updates, there are obviously going to be some mistakes and errors. It's natural for game development, and it's nothing that we should really be mad at. However, sometimes those mistakes are left in during the next update and seemingly forgotten about over time, which is where things can start to get messy. Whether it be a duplication glitch or an engine not catching up with your client, there's always something that can go wrong. And the mistakes that Mojang forgot to remove, and maybe those they chose to keep in, are what we're exploring today. Let's do it. In a 10 first use fail. In Bedrock Edition, one of the mistakes or bugs in the game that you'll likely have seen is the one where you're not playing Java. Wait, sorry, wrong thing. This one is actually if you create a tool, the first time you go to use it, it actually won't work somehow. Why is this? No idea, really. I'm guessing that it's because that it needs to warm up something or first, something like that. I guess what I mean is the game hasn't registered you actually having made and actually holding the item for whatever reason. It's a very strange bug, but the good news is the second time you try to use it, it'll be fine. It'll work properly. This bug is more strange than annoying or scary or game breaking, but definitely could be considered a weird mistake that was left in the game. And you know what most bugs and glitches are. You won't see that in Java Edition though, just saying, okay? We have our own game breaking bugs. And at 9, hand glitches. In Bedrock Edition, there were initially some pretty creepy things happening when it came to how your hands interacted with items. Things like food, shield, tools, pickaxes, weapons, and stuff like that, and bows. They would move in strange positions on screen, going far off to the side or just disappearing completely. This would also affect your visuals when it came to holding a shield and crouching because, that's how you block in Bedrock. Because the placement of the items seemed to bug out whenever you tried to hold them. Okay, crouching with a shield would therefore mean that the shield would appear to be larger and blocking more of your screen, which is not a good thing if you couldn't really tell, okay? Not only are these glitches annoying because, they're screwy and it's not what you should be seeing, but they're also pretty creepy because, your arms are giant and now they're also gone. So, yeah. Java Edition, people. In at 8, duplicating items. One of the first glitches that actually had everyone talking about, duplicating at least, was back in 1.17, and it was a damaged anvil duplication glitch, okay? This glitch allowed you to duplicate any, and I mean any item that you wanted using a damaged anvil, a bunch of inconsequential identical items, and then whatever you wanted to duplicate. You can even duplicate the most valuable items in the game and then do so in a stack. In other words, you could just grab a stack of diamonds or netherite and then duplicate those on repeat and exponentially grow your stash. Until your anvil breaks at least, which has a predicted 12% chance of happening with this glitch as well. So it's not inevitable, but it's a 12% chance every time. It's weird, okay? The possibilities at this point are endless. You could duplicate anything, even literally god apples or anything you wanted. The only limit is your imagination. Okay? There's something similar in the game now as well, or at least it was, okay? It was in the game, I'm not quite sure if it is now, but it requires putting a load of specific text into a written book, putting that book into a chest in a chunk, and then having a system that involves using that chunk to duplicate items because due to that book, there's so much data in that chunk that it can't really save it properly, and it reverts it back to a previous state, which would contain the book along with whatever items you had placed in that specific chunk. So you could also use that to duplicate things. It got really complicated, alright? It used to be so simple. And it's 7, mystery items. Something that is strange that used to happen quite frequently in terms of mistakes being left was when developers would just forget that during updates to remove items from spawned players, meaning that when players updated their game, they would often spawn and notice that they had strange and random items across their inventory. This is very common when you update a mod pack. This was because developers didn't really have commands that they could use for the items when playing around with the development stage, so instead they would just equip the item to players and then they would spawn with the items that the devs were experimenting with. However, when they forgot to take this out of the code before the update, this translated to you spawning with just a mishmash of items and being no idea where they came from. It also got to a point where, according to the lead designer, they would have to actually create a release document with a reminder note to remove these items prior to actually releasing the update. Yeah, it's not the same thing as a mod pack, but that was the closest analogy that I could have. When you have a load of stuff, but then you remove that mod and then all of a sudden it all becomes sand. Yeah, that's what it's like. And it's 6, fistful of blocks, or rather, I guess, a lack thereof. This mistake that pops up in Minecraft 1.17 and sometimes later still seems to prevent you from grabbing blocks that should be in your range, okay? It's a visual glitch, but when breaking blocks that you're standing on or maybe that are above you, it appears as though you should be able to grab them because they're laying on the ground right next to your feet and you don't have a full inventory. If you are fast enough, you try to pick them up, but then they keep glitching up and then falling back down as if they're in an infinite falling loop. And yeah, it's weird, and your reaction is usually usually to break the block underneath it, but even if you try to grab that block after such, you can't. It'll fall down, but you can't grab it. It's weird, but I mean, it's still in the game, and all you gotta do, it just got caught on something up higher, okay? So you just gotta look up, break the block that it would be on, and then you can pick it up. I don't know, okay? I don't get it. I don't know why this is a thing. I don't know why it's still a thing. We're in Minecraft 1.19, alright? We've been doing this for 10 plus years. Can we please just get this fixed? It's so annoying. Mojang, please. Okay, you can add frogs, that's fine, but can they like grab my items when they actually should be on the ground but aren't? Can they like grab them and then be like, here you go, okay? Can they do like an allay thing, but like just specifically when it's glitched? Please, for the love of God. Halfway through into number 5, giant mob. Giant mobs were initially coded into the game, but later removed, probably because, you know, they were a mistake. It's a giant zombie, so yeah. But they still became popular among certain fans who didn't like to use the mods or commands to actually spawn in these giants. If you do happen to want this spooky random thing in your game, you can just use the summon command, slash summon giant squiggly squiggly squiggly, and then boom, it's right on your face, okay? They appear as, like, again, giant zombies, and they're terrifying, but they were actually initially removed after the 1.7 update, and it's considered to have been a mistake to have included them in the first place, because they really never had a purpose. Giants simultaneously require a light level greater of 11 and then less than 8 in order to spawn. This effectively makes it impossible for them to spawn at any point, even in mob spawners, okay? Since, you know, you can't have something that has a light level higher than 11 but less than 8. That's impossible. Giants are also close to 12 blocks tall and used a 6 times enlarged zombie model. And because giants aren't actually undead, yeah, it's weird. They don't burn in the sunlight, they're damaged by potions of harming and healed by potions of healing. Iron golems do attack them though, like any other hostile mob, but giants don't convert into drowned, which seems fairly understandable, given that, you know, they're not really in the game, so why would they? And at 4, breaking bedrock. Bedrock in survival mode is intended to be an unbreakable material, unless you happen to be using cheats, because, I mean, why wouldn't you? But Yogg's cast guarantee. There's a few people who understand that, and I appreciate you for it. But even though it was never intended to be breakable without, you know, cheating, there are ways to actually break it. And it's not really breaking it, it's kind of just like transporting it out of existence. I'm not talking about super strength, okay? I'm talking about exploiting in-game glitches to just somehow evaporate the block in its entirety. There are a few different methods that are deemed usable currently, okay? One, I believe, is like TNT, trapdoor, and piston method, which is the one that I've used in the past. Another one involves using portals with clay, small drip leaves, bone meal, and shears, and another involves powdered snow. I don't know those two though, so you're gonna need to look them up. Bedrock was never meant to be broken, and yet exploiting these glitches means that you can do so. Pretend that the blocks never existed, which is insane. And obviously though, do this with caution, otherwise, you know, you'll fall into the void and somehow die without really knowing what killed you, and then you'll lose all your stuff. Yeah, what is the void though? That is a very interesting question. Getting close to the end in number 3, phantom mobs. While phantom mobs have never been explicitly considered a mistake by the devs, many fans of Minecraft feel as though their creation was. The reason for that is that in order to avoid the phantoms, you need to sleep at least once every 3 days, which many feel gets in their way of in-game progress, which is weird, but either way, it's incredibly annoying. If you do avoid sleeping because you work all night or you're underground or something, your progress will still be affected by the phantoms who then spawn on the surface and try to attack you unless you have a solid block over your head. But you can also turn off the do insomnia rule in game, and then you just don't have to deal with them. They were just a mistake to add. Why would you do this? Okay, just pick one of the other things next time. God, like, we always pick the stupidest mobs. Okay, we pick the phantoms, we pick the freaking glow squid over the moo bloom. Who does that? What's wrong with this community? I don't know. I'm always gonna be mad about the moo bloom, okay? That would have been the best mob in the game, but you had to go and ruin it. But ultimately, in number 2, creepers. This one is actually very well known, which is why it's not number 1. However, it's still an incredibly interesting and crazy fact despite that, which is why it's at number 2. When creepers were actually originally made, they weren't intentional. The way Notch programmed in all the original code, he didn't use modeling programs. He just like input the dimensions into the code of the game itself. So when he was creating creepers, he messed up the dimensions of the creature that he was intending to be a pig. He ended up flipping the length and the height, which is why creepers have 4 feet. However, Notch liked the design of the creature so much, he decided to embrace it, making them a little taller, and voila, creepers were a thing. But still, originally, these terrifying, iconic Minecraft monsters started out as just a coding error. Another fun fact though, the texture for the creeper is actually just the original leaf block without any transparency, hence the seemingly random white pixels that are actually actually across its body. Those were where it would have been transparent, but he saved it as a JPEG instead of a PNG. Yeah, Notch took the model, threw a face on it, threw the leaf texture on it, and then boom. Pun very much intended. Like what? Did you think that it wouldn't be intended? You should all know me by now. You should all know me better than that. And if you don't know me better than that, obviously you need to hit subscribe. You haven't been watching enough Top 10 Gaming. Alright? Do it.
Please like and subscribe.
And finally, in at number 1, phasing through Bedrock. Incredible past segue for you to subscribe aside. Phasing through Bedrock is not usually something seen as a good thing in either edition of the game. And even outside of that edition, it's considered a kind of odd choice in comparison with breaking Bedrock. However, there can be a few specific times that phasing through is preferred to actually trying to break it, especially because trying to break it can be finicky. You can actually phase through Bedrock in multiple different ways, such as using a boat or a ladder with an ender pearl, or maybe just a well-placed ender pearl, and maybe not even needing the ladder. Although the second method will damage you a bit because, you know, it's an ender pearl. All you really need to do though is just make sure that you have clear intentions and you're actually prepared before this, because moving through Bedrock leaves you on the roof of the Nether where you can't get back down. And if you're unprepared, there's gonna be no way for you to get back except death, which is gonna suck if you're playing on hardcore mode, because, you know, it just becomes the end of your world. Unless you're somehow able to get some piglins and then trade with them for enough obsidian to actually build a portal home. And if you're lucky enough, you can get it in like 3 to 4 trades, but that means that you'd have to have enough gold on you as well as some blocks for the piglins to spawn on, given that they can't actually spawn on the bedrock itself. So, you know what, just be careful, and then hopefully you bring a way out with you rather than just hoping to get lucky. Cause trust me, that's not gonna work out well, and that's not a joke. No, seriously, don't do it. Have a plan, okay? God. That's all the time we have for today, friends. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been in Shower Make on Monroe, and I'll see you in another video. Don't go to hell, just don't do it. Your arms are giant and now they're also gone. So, yeah, Java edition, people. My arms work just fine. They're doing random things the whole video, but they work just fine.